Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Wonderful Conversation series. And this one is with Stephanie. It's one I'm very excited about. I'm sure you're gonna love it. We recorded it almost a couple of months ago, so you will notice that from the length of my hair. Uh, and only now I had the chance to actually publish it. And for all this time, I was just really thinking about it and said, like, oh, I really want to share this one because you will be charmed by Stephanie within the first minute or two of the video, I'm sure. And we'll talk about acceptance, surrender, the creative power of thought, so kind of going beyond that place within us of well-being and actually how to move from there into creation. And there are very few people I can think of that could uh, speak to this better than Stephanie. So I'm very excited for you to watch this video. And beyond all the words and the content we'll discuss, there is an energy, a lightness, a joy in her that I I really encourage you to sort of soak in. And yeah, I've been thinking also about the whole concept of this wonderful conversation series and conversations in general, which is kind of my tool of the trade. And I would love for, all of us to experience more conversations of any kind, to just be in conversations, in real conversations with other human beings, or listen to them, or asking questions, answering questions, watching the whole dynamic, because it's in that space of shared creativity that the best things happen. And for this reason, I invite you to join us every month for the campfire, which is this group that Daniel and I, my colleague, created to open up conversations every month to anyone who wants to join in and look at life from different angles. And all of us have insights that make our world bigger. And you'll find all the information at the link below. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy this chat with Stephanie, and I talk to you next time. Bye bye. So again, thank you so much for being here and for playing and having this chat. And I'm very curious to see where we get. So far, in all the other chats, I always started with sort of saying, if you can give me like a minute recap of, who's Stephanie, where you at, what you're seeing, kind of as a let's get
Ah,
to know each other.
who is Stephanie?
Hmm.
Don't get me started, Nico. We've only just begun. That's actually one of my favorite questions. Actually, I don't like to ask, who am I? I like to ask, what I am I? But all right, I'll give a more traditional answer for starters. So, I am a wild creation coach and soul storyteller. So, what I do with creative entrepreneurs and holistic practitioners is to really help them articulate the genius of what they do into a message that attracts their ideal clients, and then doing that with soul aligned marketing. So, in other words, it has integrity. It's not the kind of marketing that makes you want to throw up. So, that's a little bit about what I do that way. Um, but as far as like who I am, wow, that's such a good question. And I'm discovering a little bit of that. I'm exploring that every day because I think it shows up differently, which is really cool.
And today,
And today, wow, like it's so undefinable. Today, I'm feeling really grateful for all the amazing people I get to meet and all the amazing conversations I get to have, like this one right here, that I couldn't have planned if I wanted to. And I love that we're showing up in this space of like, I wonder what's going to happen because I don't know. and you don't know, and neither one of us has an agenda, and it's very exciting.
I love that. Like as I said, what what I noticed of your work right now, I mean, is it today day 30? Is it of your
Yes,
acceptance?
it is. It is day
Woohoo!
30. I know. I
That's a
haven't
big
made
day.
my 30th video yet either.
Almost there. But I was curious, like the moment I saw it, I was curious, and I watched a good number of those. And why acceptance?
Acceptance, because I wanted to see something new about that.
Mm.
So first and foremost, it's been something I've been asking for years. I read the book, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, I think maybe 4 years ago, and I just fell in love with the idea. So just to give you an idea, in case you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it if it sounds like it's interesting to you. Michael Singer talks about his journey of basically saying yes to whatever the universe brings him and letting go of his personal preference entirely. So, oh, there's Griffin. He's like, yes, I agree. It was a grand experiment. Oh, Griffin, come on, my friend. Okay, thank you. So anyway, he talks about his journey of surrender. And something about that spoke to me so powerfully that I started asking for it. And of course, be careful what you ask for, because, oh yes, the universe gave me so many opportunities to surrender, but actually I appreciate that. So the real surrender for me is in accepting what is. How can I actually be more present with what is in me, in life, in the world, in the situations that meet me, and exploring that. So that's really why I was like, all right, well, what happens if I make video something? And I didn't necessarily, like, some days I'm just talking. I'm like, does this have anything to do with acceptance? I kind of think it does. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, I love that because I was thinking exactly about this. Like, so what's acceptance? And I know we can also get really, you know, philosophical or conceptual about it, and doesn't necessarily have. But I love that you're saying it's about really being with what is at the end of the day. Because initially for me it's like, okay, I look at something and maybe I don't know, this thing happened and I don't like it, right? But
Yeah.
okay, well, now I'm gonna accept it, as in like, well, all right, you know. But then I thought even that in a way is just what I'm accepting in that case is just a thought, it's just a story, right? About what I just saw, right? Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
even the idea of this is not good that I'm trying to accept. Like, well, this sucks. It's just my version of it, you know. But when it becomes being with what it is, it's almost like beyond the judgment. It's literally, in a way, it's almost, it becomes presence.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's something that towards the end of this 30-day journey has been coming to me, because I was thinking about it at first, like, oh, I have to accept these things, right? Like there's something to do. And sometimes I find myself wrestling with a particular thought that I don't want to be having, and realizing, and Griffin again agrees. I'm so sorry. Let's embrace what is here, right?
Love that.
So, Griffin, thank you. He looks at me like, okay, I'm done now. He's a beautiful white golden retriever, and he's
Love
an amazing
dogs.
dog. He's just got to like yell at anybody who's coming around the yard. So I was kind of like wrestling with these thoughts and things, like there's something I need to accept and I'm not accepting. And what I'm realizing more is that acceptance really is presence. It's just being with whatever's there without needing it to be different. And that happens all the time when we're not thinking about it.
Right. I love that.
Whenever we're not stuck in our thinking, it's like, there it is. So it's not, because I was starting to judge myself, like I'm not good at accepting because I'm rejecting this thing and whatever, and I'm not loving myself the way I'm saying, loving myself, right? Whatever that means. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. What's happening? I'm being with myself and I'm being with what is all the time. Most of the time, in fact, when I'm not caught up in thinking about it or anything else, really. I'm just being with it.
Yes. And as you speak, what I'm hearing is pretty much is like acceptance is what's left when we're not in our head. We're either, in a way, we're either accepting or we're in our head.
Kinda. Yeah.
Which is cool, like, because it's not even something like, as you said, that I have to get good at. It's just every time we let go that, oh yeah, now I'm present, so I'm with what is. And
yeah,
it's a cool, like, because I think the word can lead to the idea of like something I do.
mm-hmm.
Right? And I know, well, that's kind of the thing with words.
It is. That's the thing with words. We kind of need them in order to be able to communicate. Or do we? I'm really interested in that. Do we need words to communicate? Because actually we don't, right? What they tell us, those people who know things, right? They tell us that, I think it's like they say 80% of what
is nonverbal. Yeah.
is nonverbal. What is it? We often think it must be visual, and there's a visual component, but I don't think so. I think most of it is what we might call like vibrational or energetic. I'm more and more intrigued with that. And I had caffeine this morning, Nico, so you're getting me on firing on all cylinders. You're getting a full dose. I'll be like, blah, blah, blah,
I like
right?
it. Bring it.
So, hey, it's what's here in this moment right now. So there we go. I become more and more intrigued with, like, what if I just show up and that communicates everything that needs to be communicated, with words or without?
I love that. And where I think it goes wrong with the experts is that because you can see that, I think, it's kind of obvious, but then if you don't see this that comes before, this present, this some sort of something that is before, then what they say, well, so 80% is nonverbal, it's posture, and it's but those are just the consequences of being in a certain space. So what they see is just the final bit, and they miss where actually the communication came from.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, right? Because in communication experts, and I have a background in neurolinguistic programming and all of that, like, we learn how to create rapport, build rapport, and it's through, you can do it from the outside in, right? You can do it from the outside in as, okay, I'm going to match and mirror your movements, and I'm going to modify my speech patterns. But it's just naturally what happens when people connect. So why not just connect?
I love this because but I'm talking about something that happened, like, I don't know, it was 12, 13 years ago, like a long time ago, right? I was working for Greenpeace, and I was at the beginning of my journey there. I started really as one of the kids on the street, asking to people if they want to kind of support Greenpeace, right?
Wow.
Right. So, and what was funny is that my boss at the time, like the head of the whole program, was also into NLP and things like that. So anyway, I was doing well. So after a few months, I was one of the better recruiters, or whatever is it called. And then we get to this training. So the boss decides to run a training for all of us. And she started talking about this, like, building rapport and all of this. I had no idea what she was talking about. And next thing I know, in the next slide, there is me. And say, well, like, here is an example of how it's done. And there was a picture of me as I was working, and there was the guy in front of me that was listening, and he had the helmet of the bike, just like this, and it was kind of hanging like this. And I was literally, it was really like in a mirror. I was like this
Mm-hmm.
with my folder, just like that. And so you see what Nico did there, you know, he mirrored the thing. I was like, really? Did I? And that's the difference, right? Like, because it's true, it happens when we are connected. Or you can miss the point and think that the trick is about
Right.
replicating, but then it's
Yes.
artificial.
Yeah. And I'm finding that to be more and more the case in life. Like I've heard Michael Neal talk about great speaking and give an example of how someone was sort of pointing out some things that Michael did in a speech. You know how he paused there and it looked like he was trying to think of what to say? It's because he was. You know, like all these things that they teach as techniques for great speaking are things that just happen when you're present, when you connect with your audience and you speak. Like so much in life, we know how to be. And most of the time we are, except when we're thinking about it, when we're all caught up in like, oh God, am I doing this right? And oh, I got to do more of this. Oh, I shouldn't do that. And I shouldn't do this. And I have to do this thing. Like, the
I
rest of the
actually
time,
have
we're
a
just in it.
question. I'm gonna take advantage of your expertise. And how does the, and I'm generally, I'm curious what you see. How do you put together on one end the fact of it's really not in the words and it's in the presence, and at the same time, for example, you know, helping people like crafting a message that somehow in words translates that. Like how do you see it?
Oh, how do I see it? The words are already there. The message is already there. So when I'm talking with someone, I just follow my curiosity in the moment, right? Which is what I loved about your invitation to this conversation. You said something about wonder, like and that's how we enter into, I wonder what's going to happen, right? So in talking with them, I wonder who this person is. I wonder what they're here to do. I wonder what message they'd like to share with the world. And inevitably, when they stop thinking about it and trying to figure it out and trying to make it sound a certain way or not sound this way, oh, I can't say that. Their story, their message just comes out of their lips. And all I have to do is like be there to catch it and go,
Like,
here's what it is. Da, 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 da. Yep, exactly. Like, and I do have a gift for like asking questions that draw it out, but it's already there. People just get stuck in their thinking and they don't know how to do it. So it's about just being there and being curious and letting it show itself.
and would you say there's a message in everyone, or it's just about in a business sense of like, well, this is my message?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, my first response that arises is, well, yeah, of course. Like, I think that whether people know it or not, there's what is a message, right? What is a message? It's something that I think I heard this definition of communication that I'm going to bastardize it a little bit. It's a quote that Yogi Bhajan said something like this. He was the founder of Kundalini Yoga, crazy dude, amazing dude, crazy dude. And he was talking about communication. Is like, why do you communicate? Why? And ultimately, the answer he came to, I mean, we could probably come up with different ideas around that, is because we want a certain response from someone. We want someone to, like it's a way to connect and get something. And it was like, well, that sounds awful. It sounds manipulative, right? But I think in that context, a message, I believe everyone has, is sort of like what they'd like to create, sort of like we're these creative beings. And your message is a part of how that creation happens, by connecting with other people, by aligning with events, by identifying the people who are into playing the game that you want to play, right? Like, and so that's part of the message. And most of it's not your words, I think, but the words are a beautiful way to package it.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if I'm kind of going too far here, but like that's literally the
Oh, you
question.
can't. Yeah, do it.
The question that popped in is like, is it really my message?
Oh, like, okay, when you say that, I'm like, no, not really. Yes, but no. Yes and
That's
no.
cool,
Yes
right?
and no.
Yeah.
It feels like, just for me, it feels like it's the message that wants to come through me.
Mm.
But because there's no separation, ultimately, between whatever that is, wherever that comes from, I don't know, and myself, it is also my message.
Mm.
And it's kind of like, I love, I've used this phrase before, like, I love being used the way I was designed. And that at first seems like, whoa, awful thing to say, like being used. But no, think about like the finest, like a tool you have, like a carving knife that's designed for certain things, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to take it out back and try to saw a piece of wood with it. Like you could, but like, eesh, you know, you want to use that knife for what it was designed to be. And there's something about that that speaks to me,
Yeah, I like that.
like I want to be used for the purpose for which I'm designed. And I don't think it's like fixed or preordained. It's like organic. It's like how a plant or a tree, the purpose of whatever, it does what it does, right? A Stephanie does what a Stephanie does, and it can change from moment to moment. But like, use me as the Stephanie that I am. You know, let us create together, whatever that is. That was an interesting
Uh,
answer that came from that
I love it.
question.
Yes. I was like, yeah. One thing, and it, somewhat related, but this is something that I'm spending quite some time on recently, is that I think in my head, and it's just, I don't know, I guess oversimplifying, but it's what I'm seeing right now is that there are some people we kind of, until we see this space, we don't know it's there, or at least we're not completely conscious about it. So there is this first level where you just recognize or rediscover this sort of place in us that's sort of like, you know, very, and it feels good. Like it just feels good. It's, you know, I call it like a spa for the spirit, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
it really is like when we hang out in that presence, it's like, oh, right. What I am starting to see very recently, like, is that there is so much more in that place than simply that sense of peace, like that, what the beauty,
Yeah.
because it's beautiful, but there is power, there's creative power in that. Like I'm playing with the idea of, like, I'm calling it creative presence. So it's
Mm.
not just presence as in like, oh man, it feels good to be present, but as we are there, there's a creative power in it, right? We make things get created through us as we are present, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I think, something for me, the moment, I don't even know if I saw it, but I'm kind of having a glimpse of it. Is
Mm-hmm.
what's changing is that up to that moment, there was at least some sort of conflict or dichotomy between, great, you know, like, I can feel really good, and then at a certain point, I go out of this thing and go get stuff done, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, even in the business, because I get it when they say, well, like, you know, you just let go, you surrender, and say, oh my God, it feels so good. But what if I want to have a business? You know,
Yeah.
it felt that somehow I had to abandon it. But now I think this that we normally start finding as a static space, that's the first step. It seems to me for most people, we
Mm-hmm.
find it as a, it's actually something that's dynamic and we can bring with us, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share it, see because it's something
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot about recently.
I heard you share that in one of your videos or a couple of your videos, and I love that because it's a space of fullness. It's not, it's fullness and emptiness. It's both, right? Like
Mm.
that's what makes it so creative. I did I had a little experiment. It's like a thought experiment as I was meditating one day, and I thought, what would it be like if there was no thought? If I had no thought? And I was like, oh, and that's what you're first describing. Like, it's like this void, but it's this beautiful stillness and this peace and this space, but nothing much really happens there. It's like we're just hanging out, blissed out in the oneness, whatever, like that. And then I said, I kind of like to create things. So what happens when I put thought back in the picture, but I just don't believe it? And then I was like, ooh, what's the energy of having thought, but not believing it?
Yeah.
It's like now I could play. Now it's like this dance with thought that seems to be the creative energy of the universe. So we can be present because we're not like, I'm not like wrestling with this particular thought that's like, oh, it's so painful. I got to get rid of it, or I want more of it, right? Like I've got to do my affirmations so I can have more of this particular thought and the feeling that comes with it. But it's just like more of like a presence with all of that. Then we can play with it. Then we can bring things into the world and create whatever it is. It seems to me that's the exploration of presence in that sense for me.
I love it because it also sort of gives back, now thought as a place again, right? You know what I mean? Because once I think another thing that happens when you start seeing, oh, it's your thinking, whatever it is, like it's made up. It seems almost like thought is a bad thing, as in like.
Right, it's not the enemy, it's beautiful.
It's just, as you were saying before, it's just about using it for what's been designed,
Yeah.
Because it actually is a gift. It is something we can play with when we use it in the right way. When we think it's real, doesn't work that well. I love it. So you would say it's almost like I don't know now if actually, I'm not sure that that's what you're saying, but is it some sort of like presence plus thought equal creation? I don't even know if we need to have a formula for that, but I would just.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like a formula to me, although
No.
I'm sure that someone like maybe you could think of it that way and come up with a beautiful metaphor around it. I would love that, by the way, if something comes to you. The way it feels to me is it's more like just this being with all of that is. Like I don't have to take thought out of the picture in order to have that. And when I have thought in the picture, that's when thought in the sense of not just my personal thinking, but thought as the creative energy of the universe, right? Then there's movement, then there's play, then things happen, and the creativity and the creation that you're talking about, which could be missing if we just bliss out and our object is to not think, and which, hey, that's cool too. I mean, I was at a conference or workshop in Sedona about a month ago. And one of the exercises one of the speakers had us do was had everyone stand up, and he said, okay, now for the next 2 minutes, I want you to not think anything. And as soon as you think something, sit down. And I'm like, okay, I sit down like immediately. Because even if I'm not consciously conscious, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm thinking of it, I'm like, come on, I'm sitting down. I don't think have I had a few, I don't even know if I've ever had a couple seconds without thinking. Even in meditation, it's like maybe there are fewer of them. I'm not paying attention to them. I don't know. But does it ever turn off?
Doesn't seem like it.
Do I need it to? That's
exactly. That's the cool question. Like,
is that a goal? I could try for it, I guess. I don't know. I kind of like it. I like thinking.
Being with what is. Yeah, sounds good. Would you like? I was thinking, when you made the reply video, like I loved it. The kind of the bit that because I got it, like it makes sense what you're saying. Is like, hey, oh, this is wrong, but probably accept, like you nicely sort of brought it back to acceptance, to being with it is actually probably the way to start having fresh thought and navigate it, and it's not complacent, as you were saying. I love that. Kind of the other bit, it was more like from within. Sometimes, and it's funny because then I don't know, is it in those times where I'm just a bit more insecure or down because it happens? Yeah, probably. But anyway, sometimes, you know, I what I notice is that I have a recurring feeling, right, since I was, I don't know, a kid, of, yeah, but you know, I would like to do things different. Like there is some sort of model that I see, and maybe again it's my way of seeing it, but you know, this old sort of like, you just go and do your thing, get the money, spend the money, pass from the start, do that again. It's just I remember talking with my grandma. I really, she was like, well, you know, Nico, that's very good. You're gonna study, and then you're gonna get a job and get married, and I remember I was a little punk at that moment, literally, you know, I was into like with the hair like this, and like, and I was saying, no, you know, grandma, like, why would I put on hold, you know, sacrifice my life today in order of maybe when I'm 200 to retire and then finally enjoy. Like it started like that. It was like a teenager thing, like, but that sense every now and then kind of goes back into like, it's like a call, it's something that is nudging me towards like, hey, but why don't you literally just dare to step outside? I don't even know what it means, honestly, of this, right? And that's what I meant about, like, you know, sometimes you have the feeling of something is off, but it wasn't necessarily in the way of like, oh, that's wrong, and I am upset about it, but it's about like, there's a part of me who doesn't want to necessarily kind of go in the direction everybody's going.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking in that moment was like, can we, what if that is the truth? What if that was wisdom? What if that was the part, the healthy part in us saying, hey, dude, you know, turn right? And what we tend to do is like, yeah, but you know, well, like, oh, that will be fun, but like, you know, it's impossible, so whatever, just like be real. And because I talk to people, and in a way, you know, I have my own way, but I notice that most people would have at some level that sense of like, yeah, you know what, honestly, if I was totally, it was really, really just me, I would do things this way. You know, hey, I guess I have to. And that's what I was thinking, like, yeah, but we, if all of us, if we all sort of tune down this voice, maybe that was the way we're supposed to be used, in a way, right? I know. So again, I just wanted you to speak to that.
Yeah, that I love what you're saying, Nico. And I what I get from you is this incredible, I feel this incredible passion for creating something maybe that doesn't exist or doesn't exist in the way that you would do it. And that is, I think it's all a part of, it's going to express itself differently for different people. But if there was nothing to be right or wrong in that, if there was nothing to be judged about that impetus to create something different, or that desire, like, hey, something's a little off, I'd like to do things my way. What would my way be? That is the creative inspiration. Like, that is a part of it, right? Like, and that's how it's moving through you. It's like nudging you. It's going, Nico, this. As Griffin agrees again, like
Good.
trying to skillfully mute things here. Like, okay, this was not a wise move for me to bring him out here, but yeah, like that's what I'm hearing. That is how it moves through you and through many people. that's desire, right? Sometimes a desire is also a desire to change something that is, and some people have a gift for that. And seeing what we might label as wrongness or something's off is a part of that gift that lets you know what you're here to create as an alternative or as a change or something that doesn't exist at all. And there is, like, I'm very, very passionate in business, but in life, in any way of like, what's your way of living it? What's your way of doing business? If you could, as you were saying, like, throw out all the rules and the way it's supposed to and the practicalities, what would it look like? And for some of us, and maybe even in large part, it looks like what we see out there, but it doesn't have to anymore.
Yeah, I love that. In a way, then now you're choosing it. You know what I mean? Like, even if you kind of say, yeah, I know, it looks like what's already there, but now now I'm in it. It's sort of it's my no, I love that, absolutely. What is it? What is it for you? Like, what's your way?
I set myself up for that question now, didn't I?
You did.
I am discovering it. For me, it is through this path of acceptance, through the experiment, at least right now, of what if I receive everything exactly as it is, without needing anything to be different? What happens? And in particular, receiving myself and the experience that I'm having, like the experience that's moving through me. What if I receive that and allow it to express itself? That's the scary part for me, right? Like, oh, not only just receiving it, but actually expressing it. Because sometimes the things that move through me and seem to want to be said are, at least I have a story about it, that it's not going to be well received by others, that it might be misinterpreted or misunderstood as hurtful, taken out of context. And I'm like, oh God, right? So that for me is my way, is more and more creating and living and being in a way that pleases me, period. Period. Like, that's it. Because I'm finding that it's also inclusive of the well-being of my loved ones, my family, my community, my country. It's not like my way or their way and I'm rejecting it. It's actually including all of that. And a big part of that is a passion for helping other people to choose that for themselves, whatever it might look like. In business particularly, because that's just fun for me, but also it doesn't matter. In relationship, that's also huge. Like, anytime I don't even want to say working anymore, I'm creating with someone in a professional context, relationship is always coming up, right? The way we relate to ourselves and our partners and our clients, our communities. What's our way of doing that? Because so many times we have been conditioned, and rather than using this word conditioned, because it sounds like, we've been molded in a certain way, it's really thinking that looks real to us, right? That's what's been conditioned. So we have these certain thoughts that seem to look more real most of the time, that tell us this is the way to conduct myself. This is the way relationships should be done. This is the way business should be done. This is the way marketing has to be done. And it doesn't. It can be, but it doesn't, unless you want to or not. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if you didn't have to? Would you be willing to experiment with something else? Could you be open to something else? So, like, my way is like, do I have to have these rules? Do I have to have any? Can I be open to anything? This is not a path for everyone, by the way, Nico. This is like, I have a very dear friend, and she says, you just want to be open to everything. And she's very wise and knows me quite well. And she's like, I don't know if that's possible. She said, but I'm very curious. But the thing is, I'm open to everything. Will I choose everything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So like there are so many things in this world that I'm pretty clear I would probably never choose. And so many things even in this moment that I'm not choosing. There's only one.
I, what occurred to me, right, as you were saying that, is that because you mentioned expressing, right? That's the sort of, it was almost, you know, in one way accepting whatever comes as it is, and expressing, and yeah, and what occurred to me is like the expression in a way is, right, another side of acceptance, as in, so the moment I feel this nudge, this something in me they say, hey, do that, whatever that is, right now, just do that, say that, or anything. In a way, there's as I was listening to you, I didn't see anymore a distinction between accepting and expressing, right? Because if I'm accepting of that, like, okay, well, that's me right now, and I'm automatically expressing it. And the only thing there is between me and expressing that is resistance. Like, you know what I'm, does it make sense? Kind of.
Yeah, that's an interesting exploration because, like, okay, I'm accepting what is, and part of what is this urge to express something. And there, like, if I'm thinking about this, right, like I'm kind of thinking about this, it seems like there are different urges to express. Like sometimes there's an initial response that we might say that might be called something like reptilian, right?
Mm,
Like, what? Like,
yes.
and I might, like, if I was going to take that as a rule, what we just were talking about, like that the expression is also the
Start
acceptance
going
and
around and punch people and stuff like
yeah,
that.
I mean, I don't think it doesn't usually express itself that way, but it
Yeah,
might be
no, sure.
like swearing at people or, saying things in the moment that's where I think presence is like being with all of the things that move through. Like, because yeah, there might very well be a very quick and impulsive thing that wouldn't, that I actually won't choose. Like I don't know how many things are
I,
happening at once.
I see it, and I think it's more about kind of the knowing, right? Like I think,
Yes.
sure, I
Yes.
might feel like, what, right now I just feel like punching you in the face, but it's not what I know to do. There's
Right.
no, right?
Yes. So when you know to express something,
Then in a way,
yes.
accepting your knowing is
Yes.
expressing.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it does. Yes. Like accepting what you know to express
Yes, the sense of
and
like,
just,
you know
mm-hmm.
what, like, regardless of all the reasons to do it and the ones to not do it, like, deep down, this is my next step. Like, there is that sense of knowing it. And I guess acceptance, presence, whatever, it applies there too, in a way of like, what would, what does, I don't know if it's part of your experiment, but like, it totally, it's something I'm personally very curious about, is what happens if we accept any next step we know to do, and we accept it, therefore we do it. you know
Yeah. Yeah.
that's that is cool. I do think in a way it's what, I don't know, Michael Lee might talk about in terms of living insightfully, or this idea of, but how cool is that really, to literally, okay, so almost like, so let me check today, what's the next step, this, okay, fine, I'll go there, like, without condition, like unconditionally living,
Yeah.
right? As in, like, well, sometimes I'm not sure, but guess this is the step, so I'll take it. You know, uh, because that, I think, at least in what I see with talking with people, that is something that stops a lot of us. A lot of times is that sense of, yeah, but yeah, I know that that's what I really want to, but I'm not sure. As in, I didn't,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
What if you didn't have to? Like, what if we didn't need to understand every step we take? Like, I mean, it sounds insane initially, but kind of if you stay with it for a second,
Mm.
you know?
I think that actually sounds very sane to be, it sounds very present and grounded in the moment to say, what do I know right now? And there are times when I'm feeling clouded and I don't know,
Yeah.
or I don't quite know. I think that the mistake that I've made, I'll speak for myself, and I have also seen other people that I think this is fairly common, is that I wait for the feeling to follow the knowing instead of following the knowing, which says, do this, don't do
Mm,
this, stop, go. Instead, I wait to feel certain, or I wait to feel confident,
yeah.
or I wait to feel accepting, or something that doesn't come or hasn't yet come the way I think it's supposed to, instead of just letting it move through me, which again I think is getting caught up in thinking that looks real about I'm supposed to feel this way. It's like a lot of like I have to feel brave or have to feel confident before I get up and speak. Like, no, you don't actually. You just have to get up and speak and open your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. It resonates. Actually, I had a session yesterday, and what this woman was talking was kind of like, well, I feel like I want to change career now. But I, you know, I don't know exactly, because on one hand I would like to do this, on the other hand I would like to do that. So I don't know. I'm confused. But then after a bit of talking, it was really obvious that she already decided. Like she knew that no, that's the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, no, wait. So Wait, because then she said, like at a certain point she stopped. And she's like, huh, yeah, maybe I know which one, right? And so like, is there really a maybe? Like, because it doesn't sound like that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there's no maybe. Yeah, that's the one. And it was simply a misunderstanding, like a mistaking the fact that she wasn't feeling sure or confident
Mm-hmm.
about it with the fact that she didn't know which path to take. Right? And I think it happens to all of us. Like it's. But I guess as usual, the more you're aware of it, the more you're like, oh, cool. The more we seem to sort of do better.
Yeah, I'm seeing this more now because so many times people say, I need clarity so that I can dot dot dot. I need confidence so that I can dot dot dot. I need to love myself so that I can dot dot dot. I need to deal with my money issues so that I can dot dot dot. I'm like, no, you don't. Just dot dot dot. Now,
I love that. It
and
should be like a tagline. Just dot dot dot.
it's
Shut up
kind of
and dot
like
dot dot.
it's kind of like just do it, unless what you're getting, what you know, is that I need to stop.
Yeah.
I need to wait, because it's not a rule either, right? We're going to try to make it into a rule now. Like, okay, so then I should just do what I know to do, but sometimes there is a lot of stuff flying around me, like I'm in this whirling dust storm, and I'm like, this is not the time to move forward on this. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Like, stop, wait.
I, I love this dot 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 thing, and especially on the clarity thing, what you were saying. Because I mean, honestly, we sometimes make jokes, we jokes with my business partner about the fact that I think 100% of all the people eventually say like, yeah, I'd like more clarity about this or that.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm.
we all, I guess I would probably do the same when I'm on the client side. But and what I'm seeing is really the sentence, I would like more clarity about this, is often not really that, because more often than not, I notice they actually know the answer.
Yep.
It's the misunderstanding that it should feel in a certain way, right? Like it's so basically it's like, it's weird because somehow I want to turn right, I'm feeling nervous and confused, and so I need more clarity, because that can't possibly be,
Yeah.
think how cool would it be if for people to just suddenly realize, like, oh yeah, no, there's nothing, the two things have nothing to do with it. Like, your knowing doesn't necessarily have to come in the way you think it will come, right? With the super confidence. How many times we take steps and we're sort of, they're tentative, but like, oh, what is going to happen? And yet we do it. We know. So yeah, okay, cool. Like, I guess next time, like, we can cut like 90% of the sessions. I got it. Oh, I need more. Like, no, you don't. Just dot dot dot.
Just dot. Yeah.
It's a good
And
shortcut.
oh my gosh. And I like clarity. Like, clarity is helpful. Sometimes the clarity is, oh, I do know.
Yeah.
That is the clarity. I like to say to people sometimes, trust what you know, even if it's wrong. Because guess what? It's not wrong. It can't be. And the thing that messed with my head when I started seeing this a couple years ago is that my awareness, or my knowing, whoever you want to call it, I would call it awareness. The awareness I had is kind of language I would use, is it changes, right? So what I know today might be different tomorrow. And then it's tempting to go, well, it was wrong yesterday and it's right today.
Yeah.
No, like, our universe, our experience is dynamic and multidimensional and changing constantly. And so is the information and awareness that we have, which means the knowing changes.
Yes, I love that. And what kind of I'm seeing, it's almost like there are two different questions, as in, sure, like, is it when you say clarity, is it about, would you like to know which one to pick, right? Which it could be, and in that case, then you're gonna look at the option. I don't know, it's gonna be a practical thing almost, right? Or is it clarity as in, I would like to feel better about it? Like, I know which one it is, but I'd like to feel better about it, which is also okay, but you're gonna look in a very different direction.
Mm-hmm.
But we do often, mix the two things up. And
yeah,
I love that. Cool. What is, so kind of wrapping up, what is there anything that you say, yeah, you know what? Cool. This is something that I'd like to check. Is there anything that you feel like is emerging, something that, anything really, I mean, that is coming up for you as we come to a conclusion?
The thing that comes up for me now is that, like, whatever experience we're having, whatever experience you're having is perfect. Let it be. Like, that's it. Like, instead of trying to, even like the things we've talked about, some of the things we've touched on can seem to be complex, multifaceted, and whatever. It's like, well, yeah, and also this. I'm just gonna start laughing. Oh my goodness. That's what I want to do, Nico. I want to just show up and laugh with people, and then their lives transform. And
that's quite a good job description.
Oh yeah, like be like the laughing Buddha, like just go over, smile at people and laugh, and they're like all rolling around on the ground laughing, and then everything's different.
I think you're doing it right. Like right now in the, like, I was thinking about what is it that transform, because it's funny. I had, like, I work with people, and
You do?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Like, and often, like, honestly, thankfully, not these can see they come, like, they seem happy, right? Like, they're thankful, like, oh wow, wow, like, what occurred to me is that what I thought was the source of the transformation wasn't. As in, you know, the conversation, the, oh, well, let's look at what's true, what's not, let's kind of explore, is more of the, at least how it looks to me right now, is more of the, just a tool. But it's not the thing, like the byproduct, the real value of the conversation. What, at least how I see it right now, it's, and this is like fresh as in like 2 days ago. What occurred to me, and I don't even know if it's, but to me right now it seems it occurred to me, I don't get to see the product of my work. Like, I get to hear how they would describe it. I get to see the consequences then in their life, because then you start, but that's something that actually is transformative. You know, is not the main takeaway that I might ask at the end of the session, is not, right? And that was so big for me, because one, now suddenly certain things made sense, because, you know, it happens that you say, oh, what's your main takeaway? And I said, well, this. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, yeah, but you would say, hey, but you got this yesterday. So what's, but because the insight, how we phrase it, is just the way that makes more sense for the person in the moment to describe that something which is invisible that happened in them. And tomorrow I might describe it in a completely different way, and what I used yesterday didn't make sense. So it's so cool, because as I'm in a conversation now, I'm not looking, I'm much less interested in how exactly you will phrase the thing, or conceptually what's, oh, well, like, oh, it's all thinking, that's great. But you start just noticing in the present, that's, oh, cool, something shifted. I really have no idea what shape it took. But, you know, my job is done. That's great. You know, now let's discover next week what happened, what showed up now after this shifted. And it makes sense with what you're saying, because you know what? If that's true, then it doesn't have to be conceptual. It doesn't have to be with word. Like, literally, I'm pretty sure that your love is what sparked something in them that you don't get to see. Maybe even more than whatever really cool theory you shared with them. You know what I mean? Like, it's, and that's cool and interesting to play with as a coach, to sort of like, well, I don't get to see it. I just sort of, I be, you know, I am present, and I just trust that that will spark something, but I don't control it.
That, I feel very happy in hearing that, Nico, because really the idea of that just thrills me to no end. You know, that really, like, laughter and play, and I have great faith that in whatever interaction I have, that whatever's meant to happen is and will and is happening. And the more I can let go and just be present with that, I don't ever need to understand it. Like, that's a different kind of faith and trust. That is the surrender that I don't want to say leaning into. It's more like falling into. Yeah, it's more like falling, because I'm held in it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Thank you so much. Really, it's I love the chat. I personally got a lot out of it. And also for the way you showed up, you know, as in, let's play and see. And I think it was great. I generally think you're awesome. So I just wanted this to be said before the end of the
generally.
recording.
Thank you.
Right, I wanted to throw that before we close the recording. No, it's and I don't. And you know what's funny? I don't know why.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome.
It's just, you know, when you're kind of like, yeah, that's true. Oh, well, why is that? Oh, tell me, great. Why? I don't know. You can just feel it. So that's what I wanted to really to genuinely share with you, because I can then start making it up. I can start,
Mhm.
well, like it's probably that thing you said, the time in the genius got whatever, maybe, I don't know, but like, look, I'm very thankful we connected. I'm thankful we had this chat, and yeah, I wish you a lot of dot 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 going forward.
Thank you. I will receive that. You are most welcome, Nico. This was great fun. Um, I just, what am I really especially appreciating? You asked some beautiful questions and helped me to articulate more. Like I go, oh, that's my experience as it's coming out of my mouth. It's not like I'm thinking about this and I have it somewhere in my storage vault. It's like it comes out as I formulate the words. And how fun is that to
It's
have a
good.
conversation where that can happen? So thank you. Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.